I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast, part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. You can find them at PigskinPodNet on Twitter. You can search the hashtag TPPN. We are back. Interesting game yesterday, a lot more defensive than I thought it was going to be, as we will recap the Chargers and the Chiefs game. Unfortunately, my hero, my kindred spirit, my king, really, and Justin Herbert got injured. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. We will also preview all of the rest of the Week 2 slate. Gentlemen, Dennis and Matt, for those of you not watching live, how you guys doing?
I am doing pretty good. It's felt like it should be Friday for about 4 days now, and it finally is. Had a nice anniversary night out on Wednesday while you guys
that makes
did
one
the
of us,
show.
by the way.
Yeah.
It's been like 4 Mondays in a row for me. I'm waiting for Tuesday to hit because it's been
they felt like Mondays. It's just felt like it should be Friday. It's like, can it be Friday yet? And it finally got here. But anniversary was good on Wednesday.
Good.
Nice massage, average dinner. You know,
I feel like you'd want it to. Maybe it's just me because I love food. I think I'd rather have it the other way around. I think I'd rather have average massage, nice dinner. I think that's how I'd prefer it.
Well, I get food all the time. I don't get a lot of massages.
I don't know how to follow that. I made it back.
Do you get a lot of massages? Let's ask Deshaun Watson. Oh, that's too far. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Damn. I made it back from Phoenix.
Well, my wife was in the same room with me getting a massage also, so nothing untoward happened as far as you know.
Not with third parties, anyway. Ew. I made it back from Phoenix. I don't normally work on Friday. I had to work this Friday. I felt very much like Dante from Clerks. I'm not even supposed to be here today. It was very eventful.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Obviously, we won't dive into that. But, it sounds like you're really not too happy that you had to work today. So let's just dive straight into the game, though. I mean, Chargers, unfortunately, lose 27-24. More importantly, we don't know if they've lost him yet, but they get their quarterback's hurt. I believe there was a report.
He has a fractured rib cartilage. I was just listening to it.
Okay.
They said they're going to see how he's doing next Wednesday and evaluate if he's going to be available to practice. On the NFL radio, Jim Miller was a quarterback. He said that Herbert would have been better off if he cracked or broke a rib.
Yeah, so I've actually had that because of a car accident. I think it's worse because I've broken my ribs too. I feel like that's 10 times worse.
So look, he's going to get a shot. You saw him out there without getting a shot, throwing that beautiful pass. Once he realized he couldn't run and shouldn't run and try to throw on the run, then it was like, okay, let me just do something. He gutted it out. He toughed it out. He probably should take a week off, but he's probably not going to. Chase Daniels it back there going, dude, you got this. You're doing great. You look great, man.
Well, their next game is 10 days away, and they get the Jaguars at home. So,
I mean, it just sucks because he's so damn talented. I mean, you could see it right after it happened. Right? Like, he almost couldn't throw the ball at first. So I personally would love to see him take a week. My fantasy teams wouldn't. Like, I'm very heavily invested in Justin Herbert, but I think for like his long-term health, I would like to see him at least get a week. But I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, it ain't going to take a week to get healed up from that. And any hit, regardless of a shot, they put the flak jacket on there. Like, any hit's going to cause that. I mean, breathing causes issues for that. That is not a fun injury to deal with. But Matt, you talked a little bit about it on the preview show. I mean, Mike Williams stepped up in a big way for Keenan Allen. What were your thoughts on him? And what do you think happens with Mike Williams once Keenan Allen returns? It sounds like he could be back by week 3.
Yeah, I think the last couple of years, it's been the consistency for Mike Williams. Last year he started out fast and furious. There was a lot of comparisons to him having that kind of Michael Thomas 2019 season. It seemed like he cooled off on the back stretch. Wasn't heavily involved in week 1. Definitely got peppered with targets, great matchups, and he made stuff happen. They invested in him in the offseason. I think there is room for he and Keenan Allen, and it looks like Gerald Everett to all have a role and to all be fantasy relevant. So hopefully he continues to make the most of his targets.
It was interesting to me that both Palmer and Everett, my big concern isn't so much that Williams maintains a role. It's, can both of them maintain a role, or is one of them going to disappear, or will it make for a rotating, third receiving option that forever frustrates everybody the rest of the season? Because Palmer looked good, Everett looked good. I probably have not been high enough on Everett. Part of that is my love for Donald Parham, who can't seem to stay healthy. So it might be time for me to start checking out there.
Yeah, I thought Everett looked really good. The pumping up of him this offseason might end up being one. Although I know he was tired, but that
interception, be a better effort than that.
That's 100% on him. Unfortunately, you could tell too. It was we were having a meeting at the time, but like I was watching the game with no volume, and like you could just see like Justin Herbert is very even keeled, like just kind of doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He looks so annoyed standing on the sideline after that interception. Everett comes up. You could just tell Everett was like, I was trying to get subbed out and this, and then Herbert was just like, yeah. So poor guy. 100% on Everett. That interception should come off Justin Herbert stats and go straight on to Gerald Everett. Dennis, I mean.
Also, why the hell didn't they just let him come off? I mean, if the guy's second wind and telling you.
So I did not know this part. So two things. It was high tempo. They were rushing it to line. So I think because if you let him off, you have to let the defense sub at that point, right? Correct. Secondly, I didn't know that the Chargers apparently only had 2 active tight ends last night. Mm-hmm. I think that might have been the other issue. So I personally, I'm with you, mostly because we saw he threw an interception because Gerald Everett was dead tired from that run, but you still got to give it, like, even if you're not going to catch it, like, smack it down or something. Don't let it go straight to the defender for an easy interception. Like, come on. But Dennis, we saw CEH. I mean, he had a big run again last night. Let's just be honest. All 3 of us were fairly low on him based on what he's done the past couple years. Do you think he's going to be able to maintain this consistency throughout the rest of the season?
I mean, it seems like Andy Reid has a plan to use him with the majority of the touches for the running back. Pacheco's going to get a little bit. McKinnon, it worries me a little bit that McKinnon seems to be the guy they're putting in there in the red zone. That is a little bit concerning, but based on CEH's early career red zone work, it's not necessarily surprising. And then Pacheco had an opportunity to convert a short distance third down last night and did not convert that either. If they keep struggling in the short yardage stuff, you may actually see Ronald Jones be active because he's 220. But yeah, I think CEH is the back you want there. If I have him as my RB2 or even a flex, I think that's winning. I don't know that he was going late enough to be considered a 0 RB running back, but he's certainly looking good early in the season. I would like maybe a little more passing down work, but I'll take 74 yards and 4 receptions.
I mean, I think that's the encouraging part to me. I'm interested that you say you'd like more receiving work. He's been at least consistently getting 3 or 4 receptions both of the games. I think it's a good sign that he's involved. They have a lot of weapons and a lot of targets. I think part of their whole plan with this new look offense was anyone can beat you at any time, and they're not trying to just focus on propping up a couple of players. So from that standpoint, it was a bummer this game he didn't end up getting the running back receiving touchdown because McKinnon had come in for him. But the game prior, he got a couple of touchdowns. I actually think CEH goes back to me to being somebody that I'm interested in as a high-end flex or low-end RB2.
Yeah, it was looking at the snap counts. McKinnon actually did outsnap him, 44 to 47%, but Edwards-Helaire out-touched him 6 to 12.
I think the one thing that helps CEH is it just seems like this offense has changed too. Ever since last year, they really seem to be toward the playoffs when we saw Patrick Mahomes trying to do everything. And it felt like Andy Reid has finally tried to kind of rein him in a little bit. I think the loss of Tyreek Hill as well. I don't think they want him doing so much of the backyard football, and they're trying to make this a certain game plan that might actually end up helping CEH here in the long run. All right, so let's preview the Week 2 NFL slate, and we're going to start with the 0-1 New York Jets at the 1-0 Cleveland Browns. Dennis, is there a Jets receiver you're confident in starting this week against that Browns defense?
Define confidence. It looks like Corey Davis might be the guy that you want based on draft cost during redraft draft season. I mean, he was going at like wide receiver 100 or more, and he had, I think, 9 targets last week. He had 10 targets last week. I mean, but Wilson had 8, Moore had 7, Berrios had 6. So do you think, is Flacco going to throw it 59 times again? I mean, that seems high, especially for a 71-year-old quarterback. I think Moore is the guy I want, but it seems like the offense isn't going to be productive enough to support multiple guys each week. I mean, they may get targets, but not necessarily high-quality targets. But gosh, I mean, 25 targets between the 3 of them is certainly good opportunity. So I don't want him as anything more than a flex because you just don't know.
There's no receiver I'm confident starting. Dennis is right. It did seem like Corey Davis, but even then, feels like a flex. I'm more bullish on the running backs because they were getting a lot of dump off targets, and they're also going to get some carries. That seemed to be where the fantasy value is. When Zach Wilson comes back, hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love for him to throw it 75 times with Clowney and Garrett coming off the edges there against that bad offensive line. It's going to be a great day for them. I am avoiding practically the entire Jets offense. I actually would not. I kind of agree with Matt. I'd be fine starting Breece Hall and Michael Carter. I'm not, and honestly, Conklin, he got, I believe, a touchdown last week. I think that's the weakness of the Browns defense is that those linebackers, and I don't know that they bring down a safety and put them on Conklin. So I might actually feel fine starting Conklin as well, but I'm avoiding all the wide receivers. Matt, Donovan Peoples-Jones was targeted a lot last week. Looked fairly good. Is he a flex-worthy option for you this week?
Yeah, I think I would consider, depending on my options, putting him in the flex. As you're going to see, there aren't a lot of incredible games this week, especially on the Sunday slate. Last night was one of the better games. Monday night has 2 of the best games. Sunday slate's a little bit more of a toss-up. I liked the volume that Peoples-Jones saw last week, but at the same time, I think we need to see Brissett more than 1 week in a game to get a better sense of who he's going to target.
I mean, Peoples-Jones played 82% of the snaps and he got 11 targets. That's really, really good opportunity. But man, I need to see more out of Jacoby Brissett. He was not highly productive. Everything was just so short, no yardage. It was really, really tough.
Yeah, we're talking deepest of leagues, in my opinion. I don't know if I would not start him if you're talking just regular 12-team, one flex. I probably would not start DPJ. Could go off. We know he's got that big game potential and breaking a big play, but I would not start him this week. And honestly, I'd probably be benching Njoku too, who I thought could be a sleeper at tight end, but that was a bad performance for him in that one. I don't know why, because I feel like this is a trap game, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Browns to beat the Jets.
Browns for me as well.
And for me.
The 1-0 Washington Commanders at the 0-1 Detroit Lions. Dennis, how do we feel about T.J. Hawkinson and your Lions?
He's kind of becoming, in a 12-team league, I think Hawkinson is quickly headed towards streamer status. He's one of those better for real football than he is for fantasy tight ends. He'll have a good game, but he's becoming touchdown dependent, and you just don't know. I like him as a player. I think as a Lions fan, he's definitely a guy I want on the team. But for fantasy, I just don't have a ton of faith.
Yeah, same for me. I think I still have him like low end tight end one, but I don't feel a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit this offseason. I was worried about Hawkinson. He kind of dropped for me. We just haven't seen the consistency, and I think that's going to continue to pop up. Gator, for those of you on the podcasting side here, asked what happened with Njoku. Nothing happened. He didn't get injured or anything. He just wasn't really targeted. And as Dennis mentioned, Jacoby Brissett just looked bad. I don't know that.
I'm sitting there calling for Josh Dobbs. I'm like,
so the reason I think myself included, boosted Njoku up was because Brissett made Jack Doyle a thing in Indy when he started, and we thought maybe he would target Njoku a lot. Just didn't seem. Maybe it was one game, overreacting. I'm just saying, like, personally, I would not start him this week. In a league, I got lucky because I picked up Gerald Everett, who's still available. I picked up Everett and put him in over Njoku. Another one, I actually picked up Tyler Conklin, and I'm playing Conklin over Njoku. I need to see it now at this point. Yeah, exactly. 87% snap share, one target. Like that's horrible. Give me 4 targets. Like, give me something. It was not a great day, but a lot of that I think is 100% on Jacoby Brissett. Matt, how do we feel about Curtis Samuel, who, we were excited when he made the move over to Washington following his former offensive coordinator. Injuries, has not really been able to put it all together since the 1 year in Carolina. Looked really good in week 1, though.
Yeah, and I think we saw in week 1 what I had been excited about, the potential of going over there, which was the opportunity. They got him involved carrying the ball. They got him involved as a receiver. I do think that there's some potential there for him to go back to being a weekly flex option.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily concerned about the role being there. Based on the last couple of seasons, I'm more concerned, can he hold up to the role being there? I mean, they do have some weapons with Dotson flashing. Logan Thomas is back and seems to be as good as ever. So there is reason to not give him so much volume. So that may end up being very game script dependent. So instead of, 10 or 12 touches, I think probably 7 or 8 is probably should be more of the expectation for Curtis Samuel. But man, he did look real good.
Yeah, if we're talking redraft leagues, if there's any reason that he didn't get picked up, which I imagine he did because of the week he just had, I would definitely snag him and keep him on my bench to see what happens again this week. But I think Carson Wentz is not going to be afraid to target him heavily. I want to pick the Lions, but I really feel like the Commanders are unfortunately going to win this game. So I'm going to take the Commanders.
I'm going with the home field advantage and taking the Lions myself.
I'm also taking the Lions.
Matt, I need 1 second. Sorry.
Yep. So next game up, we have the 1-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 1-0 New Orleans Saints. One of the curious things about the Tom Brady era in New Orleans is he is 0-4 in Tampa Bay. He's 0-4 in the regular season at New Orleans. Dennis, can he change that?
Not only can he will. I know is Godwin officially out? I think I saw that earlier
Godwin
today.
is officially out, and I don't think Julio returned to like a limited practice.
Yeah, but I mean, well, Julio, I think because he's 48, it'll be Wednesdays off, limited Thursday, maybe even limited Friday. But they've got Gage, they've got Brait, they've got Otten, and they've got Mike Evans. And then you throw in Rashad White looked really good, and then Lenny looked great. And while he seems to be a little bit dinged up, I'm not overly concerned. This week with the New Orleans pass rush with Davenport and Cam Jordan, and I feel like it's going to be an awful lot of short stuff this week because that center of that offensive line is a weakness for Tampa. But then on the other side, they're down weapons as well. So I think this is the week Brady gets the Saints.
Yeah, and I think Brady could win, but there's something about it. It just seems like he has trouble with New Orleans and something about that defensive scheme and Dennis Allen. One thing I will be curious about is New Orleans the past few years has had a really great rush defense. Week 1, that was a real problem. They allowed 192 yards rushing combined to Cordero Patterson and Marcus Mariota. If they let Lenny run wild, I think that's going to be the best sign for Tom Brady.
Well, I don't think you're not going to get a ton of RPO action out of Jameis. I mean, you'll get some for the look, but I don't think they'll seriously consider that Jameis will run the way that Mariota did. I think the running game is, that's what I mean. But I don't think
Brady's not going to run at all.
Yeah, never mind. I was making a point the other way that didn't exist. Let's move on.
So Alvin Kamara is officially questionable. So too is Mark Ingram and Dwayne Washington. If Kamara misses, is there a New Orleans back that interests you?
I don't think so. Last year, Tony Jones for about a week was a hot waiver wire pickup. And looking at their practice squad, I don't even know that they have a.
They have
they don't really. Oh yeah, they just signed. Yeah, so it's Murray and Tony Jones. If the other guys all miss time, Dwayne Washington is a core special teamer. He goes all the way back to being at Detroit. He's not a guy that you're going to give 20 carries to. So if Ingram and or Kamara miss, I think the running game is going to be pretty non-existent for the Saints. Now, the way that Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Olave looked last week, that may not matter. They may just go, we're going to chuck it 50 times because that's what we have. And that could be successful. But I think it'll be we're going to run a running play to keep them honest. And if something happens positive, then that's it. But I feel like at least one of Ingram or Kamara is going to play.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you. If Kamara missed, there isn't another back that I'd want out of New Orleans.
Actually, I just looked at my notes and I totally missed this. Taysom Hill might be the back to start. If both of them miss, I think it wouldn't surprise me to see Taysom Hill get 20 carries if they both miss. Now that I was looking at my notes instead of the sheet.
Yeah, I still think for me, if I rostered Kamara, the replacement for him in my lineup would be a running back from another team.
Right. I concur.
So I'm taking the Saints. Who are you guys taking?
As I said in my opening soliloquy, I'm taking the Bucs. I'm taking Brady to break it.
I'm going to take Tampa Bay as well. Next up, the 0-1 Carolina Panthers at the surprisingly 1-0 New York Giants. Matt, will we get a better game from CMC here?
I hope so. The big question coming into the season was, could he stay healthy? The big question coming out of week one is, what about that offense and that line? Carolina's entire offense looked bad, and somehow they've managed to make they've become kryptonite for Christian McCaffrey. 10 carries, 33 yards. Wasn't a super impressive performance. I figure he has nowhere to go but up.
I mean, Hilliard was productive in passing downs for Tennessee against them. So I feel like, CMC's a better receiving back than it's not Dalton Hilliard. I forget who that is.
Dontrell
Hilliard. Showing my age again, both with not remembering and the recall of Dalton Hilliard. But Hilliard was productive. So I do think there is a little bit of optimism for CMC managers. I'm not giving up on it yet. If I have him, obviously he was still going first round. And if you have him, you're not going to sit him in week 2. So I'm hopeful that CMC is productive this week.
Yeah, it was crazy to see Frank Reich coaching the Indianapolis Colts and the Carolina Panthers offense at the same time. I was, kind of forgetting that their best player was even on that team.
Matt Rule wishes he was Frank Reich.
He was coaching like him. I really hope that he has a bounce back game, because there were chances there, in my opinion. I watched a lot of that Browns game. They just, for whatever reason, weren't getting the ball. There was a few times that they did, and he looked good, making multiple players miss, like in a phone booth. He was surrounded by defenders and making them miss. So health will be big, but also, can he, get past, I guess, my God, I forgot his name already. Guess he doesn't matter anymore, but whatever the offensive coordinator's name is now. McAdoo. There we go.
Ben McAdoo.
Couldn't think of it. We just talked about it. Dennis, I know you love these questions. Is there a receiver you trust to start on the Giants this week?
Kenny Galladay. It's like, I think Sterling Shepard is the only one you can really trust. I mean, Daniel Jones loves him. And, I mean, he's only got like 2 more games before he goes back on IR. So if you got Sterling Shepard, start him now before he breaks. Richie James with 5 catches for 59 yards out of nowhere. I don't know what's going on with Kadarius Toney in the front office. They're saying it's an injury, but I'm a little skeptical. It seems like there's something going on with young Joka there. So I don't know. Until Galladay does a little bit more, maybe – coming off of off-season injury, they said he looked stiff in training camp. Maybe Daniel Jones just doesn't trust him yet to throw up those YOLO balls that make Galladay so successful. Wandale's out this week. It's, is it a David Sills week out of nowhere? Maybe for DFS, I'm popping Sills into the lineup.
If you're starting a Giants receiver, you've already lost.
Right.
I'm not taking them. I am, however, picking the Giants.
So am I. Holy mackerel. I mean,
I know who would have thought week 2 we'd be. I think it's Brian. I like to think I'm picking Brian Dable and not, and just nothing to do with Daniel Jones.
I definitely think it's Brian Dable and Saquon Barkley that we're picking. They did invest some in the offensive line, and while it didn't show up last week, I do think it will continue to gel.
Yeah, I am taking the Giants as well. As much as I'd love to see Baker get off the schneid here, Barkley looked amazing, and I do think a lot of it is just how great of a coach Brian Daboll is. The 0-1 New England Patriots going up against the 1-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. Matt, is there any Patriot you feel confident starting this week?
That's really a negative. No one I feel confident starting. That Pittsburgh defense looked good. I know they're missing TJ Watt, but I like Malik Reed coming in there. I think if I was pressed and had to put my life on it, I might still put Damien Harris in a flex. And there is actually a sad league where I have to play him because of injuries.
Yeah, with losing Tyler Ty Montgomery might benefit Harris and Stevenson and make them have to be used in a consistent fashion. I'm still okay starting Jacoby Myers as a deep flex. If you've got 3 wide receivers, 2 flex. So then you're looking at him as maybe a wide receiver 4 or 5. Myers is the one there. I don't think that last week changed the perception of that. And I think him and Mac have some chemistry. And so if I have to start one guy, I'm probably going to go with Jacoby Myers over Damien Harris. But those would be the 2 guys I would lean on.
Yeah, this is probably a bad call, but I think I'm still fine starting Damien Harris. I know he didn't have a great week last week. I still think he's going to end up being the guy, but it would really just be him for me. Offensive line did not look good last week. I mean, I know that the Steelers don't have Watt, but I still think that defense is going to be really good. Mac Jones didn't look great. He's dealing with a back injury now too, I believe. I think this is going to be the first time in a very long time we may see the Patriots start out 0-2. Typically, they do not lose back-to-back games. I think there's a realistic shot that happens this weekend. Matt, what did you think about Najee Harris, though? I mean, he literally went from a guy who less than a week ago was going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with some kind of Liz Frank injury. Then it went to 4 to 2 weeks or 2 to 4 weeks because of a sprained ankle. Now he's perfectly fine, healthy. He's playing Sunday.
Yeah, they said he's off the injury report, which is good news about you feeling confident if you are starting him. I still have him as an RB2 this week. Their line didn't look great. Their offense, I think, is still a work in progress. And New England still has a decent defense. So I'm not top 12.
Yeah, I think that he's going to have to produce in the passing game to be a top performer. I'm encouraged. I mean, the only note I have on this is, how do we feel about Najee Harris in week 2? Fucking nervous as hell. But now that he's off the injury report, for me, at some point we just got to believe these guys, and you can't always try to outsmart them. They have to report honestly to the NFL because of gambling issues. And so if he's off it, I'm believing that he's fine. He's probably going to have a foot thing that he's got to manage all season, but I don't think it's limiting him in any way. So I feel okay about him.
Yeah, I mean, chances are you don't have a better option than him. Unless you're in, I just happen to be lucky enough that in a league I roster Najee, I have Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley. Then I'm more than happy to start both of those over him. Typically, you're not going to be lucky like that. I'm honestly afraid of starting anybody on this on the Pittsburgh offense. I think you have to start everybody. Pat Freiermuth is the only guy I'm perfectly fine feeling like he's going to produce for me in my lineup. And I'm going to take the Steelers to win and again, send New England to 0-2, which we rarely see since Bill Belichick has taken over.
I'm also taking the Steelers.
It's a clean sweep.
The 0-1 Indianapolis Colts against the 0-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. Dennis, I mean, right now, believe Pittman's going to play. If he does or doesn't, is there anybody else on this receiving core you want to start?
I don't know about want to start, but now that we know Pierce is out this week, it does clear it up some. It makes me feel more comfortable about starting Paris Campbell if I have to. I don't really have anywhere that I have to, but if you're looking at it and saying, well, Pittman is your 1, somebody's got to be the 2. I'm going Paris Campbell over Ashton Doolin. Seems like there's somebody there I'm forgetting as well.
Mike Strachan.
Yeah, so I'm still going Paris Campbell as the 2. But this may be the week that you get some action. Kylan Granson was getting some attention, Mo Alley Cox. And then Nyheim Hines is probably going to get a little more passing work. You may see more of Hines and Jonathan Taylor on the field together if they don't feel comfortable with the other wide receivers.
Yeah, that's where I would lean. Hines probably would be the one I would think to get an uptick in work. I am not taking a chance on any of the other receivers. We just haven't seen enough consistency.
Plus, we know how much Frank Reich loves Nyheim Hines, so probably he'll outsnap Jonathan Taylor this week after the.
Does
He
Reich
adopted
love
Nyheim Hines.
He loved Nyheim Hines like Sean Payton loved Taysom Hill?
I think more so, actually. It's just,
He might have legally adopted him.
I think the paperwork is still being worked through. There's a whole court system, everything you got to go through. But rumor has that the papers were filed. On the Jacksonville side here, Matt, how are we feeling about James Robinson?
I liked what we saw from Robinson in week 1. It was a disappointing final outcome for the Colts, but they actually did a pretty decent job bottling up the running game. We didn't get a lot from Damon Pierce from the Texans. How much of that is the Texans? How much of that is the Colts defense? This game will probably give us a better impression. Robinson, though, for me, is the Jaguars running back I am starting if I'm choosing to start one.
Yeah, I'm starting him with trepidation. I need to see more. I mean, somebody's got to be the first to come back from an Achilles tear and be productive like they were previously. And maybe that's James Robinson. Maybe because he wasn't, super bursty to begin with, that helps him. But I'm still nervous starting him. But I think based on his opportunity and production, you do.
Yeah, I mean, he looked better than ETN. Mm-hmm. It was insane to say from a dude who I feel like literally tore his Achilles like a month ago. Obviously, it wasn't, but it was insane to watch him go out there and be that good. And I think it's got to make you worried about Cam Akers as well and how bad necessarily he looked last week. I'm going to take the Colts to bounce back here. I think they get off the schneid and get a win.
Colts for me.
It damn well better be the Colts.
Yeah. The 1-0 Miami Dolphins are going to play in Baltimore against the 1-0 Ravens. Dennis, is Chase Edmonds a top 25 play this week?
If he is, he's 25. That offense is based around, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Tua Tagovailoa. I will say I want to start Chase Edmonds way more than I want to start Mike Gesicki. That's for dang sure. But he's nothing more than a flex at this point until we see that offense play out and start to get consistent in what they're trying to do. It's really just the freakishly speedy and athletic wide receivers for me.
Look, I have Chase Edmonds behind Melvin Gordon, and we all know how I feel about Melvin Gordon. I was thinking Miami's running game might be kind of fun with Mike McDaniel coming over there. We did not see fun in week 1, and Baltimore's got a decent defense. So I'm not bullish on Chase Edmonds or anyone in the backfield for Miami.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I would avoid them. It's really just Tyreek Hill, probably Jalen Waddle. I feel Waddle's still, I think, going to be really good, but it's just the receiving core for me on the Dolphins side of things. No Dobbins in week 1 here, Dennis, but rumors are that he might actually play this week. If he does, how do you feel about the Ravens run game?
Well, he certainly makes it better. We saw in his rookie season just how productive that he can be. It's, as much as I want to buy into him being back and ready to go, I feel like the team is going to make him split carries with Kenyon Drake this week. And they already have Lamar. Now, last week, Lamar is trying to not run. And he did a very good job of that last week. So I think that giving Dobbins another week, if I can get away with not starting him this week, I'll feel way better about what I'm seeing. And if he comes in and goes off this week, then so be it. But coming back from the injury, and you hear players talk all the time about being back, and then the coach stifles them. because they're really not ready. And I kind of feel a little bit about that's what happened last week. You know, he was talking about being ready. This week, he's like, hey, I appreciate my coaches doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. You know, now I'm really ready. Well, you know, I'm from Missouri. You got to show me.
The show me state, right?
Yeah.
He had a good full week of practice. I am optimistic he's going to make his season debut. But that being said, I'm like Dennis. I have a little bit of caution, so I put him down. I'm still hoping for low end RB2, though. I'd be excited to see him back.
Hey, you know, we talked about this a little bit when we did the Ravens preview episode. Like, if he gets the red zone touches, if he just gets into the end zone once or twice, that makes your day. Like right now, I think that's all you're hoping for with him, because I agree. Like, they didn't bring Kenyon Drake in for no reason. He's going to play for a little bit, at least until Gus Edwards comes back. I don't think they want to rush Dobbins out there and possibly cause him to get injured again. I don't know, for those of you who did not see the interview that he did recently, but he thought, man, he injured like his entire leg. It felt like he like literally tore every single muscle in his leg. I felt like he went on a list of like 30 things he listed he injured. So he suffered a fairly serious injury. I don't think they want to rush him out there. I'm taking the Ravens. I wasn't overall impressed with Miami's performance week 1. I just think Baltimore right now is the better team. I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm taking Baltimore.
Ravens for me.
And for me.
The 0-1 Atlanta Falcons at the 0-1 Los Angeles Rams. Matt, should we have any concerns about Kyle Pitts?
I have concerns about all the pass catchers in Atlanta because the passing offense didn't look particularly robust. It also looks like they are kind of keying on him. I love the talent. Atlanta's offense was both better than we expected in week 1 and not as good as we expected. They were better in that they put up points, and the running game looked great, and Mariota looked great as a runner. The passing game been a little bit slower to come around, and I'm not sure a date with what promises to be a rested and angry Rams team is going to be the salve to cure those ills.
Yeah, the issue with Pitts wasn't opportunity; it was converting. So he had tied with London for the lead in targets. You know, there's not going to be a lot of targets in Atlanta. He only threw the ball 33 times, but Arthur Smith and Marcus Mariota seem to know that when you do throw the ball, you throw it to Kyle Pitts and Drake London. So I'm not worried about Kyle Pitts moving forward. He's going to get plenty of opportunity, and he's going to convert. And I think as the team continues to gel, you know, they'll take more of those chances and more of those opportunities, and it'll be good for the production.
Yeah, I felt like they left him in to block a lot, but I mean, as Dennis mentioned, he got a lot of targets. I think it's just one of those weeks where we knew this coming into Marcus Mariota, not the most accurate quarterback in the world. I think that he'll end up being fine. I also think, as Matt mentioned, a rested and pissed off Rams team, and they're going to Los Angeles to play them. Wouldn't be surprised if Marcus Mariota really struggles in this game. If we don't see a little bit of Desmond Ridder. Just saying. On the Rams side here, Dennis, as we were all in on Allen Robinson. They were sleepovers together, eating breakfast, making each other dinner. Wives are best friends. I mean, like, they're the 3 best friends that anybody could have. And Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Allen Robinson. And then the game started, and it was like Matt Stafford and Sean McVay forgot Allen Robinson even played for the Rams. Are we good this week?
I think so. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity for a bounce back. And it's not like Robinson wasn't open. He got open. So, and I think Matt Stafford is smart enough to go back and look at the film, and he's going to see plenty of opportunities where he could have made plays with Robinson, where he tried other stuff. He made other passes that didn't necessarily convert. So I think that they'll grow from this, and it's going to be fine. Robinson is going to get his share of the targets as the number 2 wide receiver. Make no bones about it. Cooper Kupp is the number 1 there. If anybody comes close to Cooper Kupp in targets in a single game this year, I would be completely shocked. But this sets up to be a great opportunity for the Rams to bounce back. defensively and offensively. I don't know what I'm looking for from Cam Akers, but I think Darrell Henderson will be fine. And I think you're looking at probably 6 to 8 targets and 4 to 5 catches for Allen Robinson and probably a touchdown.
Yeah, it'd hard be any worse than he was really opening night. Gabe Davis had the game that I think we thought Allen Robinson was going to have. It just didn't look like they were looking for him. I think they will make a little bit more of an effort, but at the same time, I'm not as bullish as I was last week. I want to see him work and get integrated into the offense. I also think there is a chance this game is not as competitive as we assumed the game was going to be last week against the Bills, in which case sometimes, though, you don't get as many opportunities.
Yeah, I agree there. I am taking the Rams. I don't think there's any shot Atlanta wins this game.
Yeah, me too.
I'm also taking the Rams.
The 1-0 Fighting Geno Smiths in Seattle, the Seahawks, are going up against the 0-1 San Francisco 49ers. Matt, is Geno Smith a serious superflex consideration for you this week?
You know, he did a lot better than I expected, at least in the first half. He found some success. He wasn't wildly successful in the second half as, you know, Denver's defense seemed to get more on track. I actually thought the 49ers defense was pretty good last week. So for me, I can see why you might make a case and might have gotten excited about it, but Geno is going to remain kind of in that high-end QB3 for me.
Yeah, I mean, he threw the ball only 28 times. They just weren't productive as an offense. I mean, Rashad Penny had 12 carries, Geno Smith 6, Travis Homer 1. So they only ran it 19 times, only threw it 28. And he only had 195 yards passing. Now, sometimes, you know, the receivers got to make some plays for him and pick up some yardage to make those numbers look good. But that's not a guy I'm looking to run out there as my QB2 in Superflex.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It was a really great performance, but we've just seen over his career he's failed to remain consistent. And I think San Francisco is going to be pretty pissed off after losing to Chicago in week 1. I think they're going to come out here with a little bit of their hairs on fire. Dennis, no Elijah Mitchell. How do you feel about the 49ers backfield?
Jeff Wilson, baby. Jeff Wilson. I mean, the battle between the running backs is not including Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson is the backup to Elijah Mitchell. And then Tyrion Davis-Price and Jordan Todman are, I think I got the name right. They're battling to see who's going to be the number 2 running back this week with Mitchell out or for the next few weeks. But Jeff Wilson is going to, until he breaks down, which, you know, unfortunately, it seems like he invariably does, Jeff Wilson's going to be the guy there. You know, Trey Lance is going to get some run. Deebo Samuel's going to get some run. But unless they have a lot of designed runs for Trey Lance, I would expect 15 carries out of Jeff Wilson.
The top 2 rushing options for the 49ers are Deebo Samuel and Trey Lance. Jeff Wilson's an okay flex play for me, but I don't think, you know, I think seeing how they were running the offense the last couple of weeks, they fully intend to continue using Deebo Samuel as a big piece of that rush offense, and it works for them.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Deebo sees a ton more carries, unfortunately for him. I'm going to take the Niners to come back and win this game.
Niners for me.
Sorry.
I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks.
Nice. The 0-1 Cincinnati Bengals at the 0-1 Dallas Cowboys. Matt, if T. Higgins does suit up, are you willing to play him?
Yeah, he's coming off that concussion. He's still listed as questionable. I think Cincinnati should have a much easier time with Dallas than they did the week prior, although Dallas can rush the passer, and that was a big problem. I think for me, I'm much more cautious on T. Higgins this week. I think they're going to take it easy. If I have to play him, I'm expecting flex range value. I don't think he's going to be a high-end wide receiver too.
Yeah, I think, if they clear him, they should have an edge over Dallas, because Dallas with Cooper Rush is just going to not be great. But if they're running Higgins out, if they've determined that he's healthy and he's going to play, then I think you do start him. We've seen how good he is and how good he can be. So I'm just not ready to sit him on my bench when the team says he's healthy.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear with him is if they clear him, he's clearly back from the concussion. They're not going to send him out there if he's still dealing with any effects. So if he's out there, if they say he's healthy, I'm willing to play him, because I think he's going to get targeted heavily. I still think Trayvon Diggs is a good cornerback. I think he likely matches up with Chase more often than not. Dennis,
if Diggs matches up with Chase, Diggs may break the single game receiver, or Chase may break the single game receiving record.
I don't know about that. Diggs is still a very good cornerback. He allows a big play, but so does
terrible in coverage.
I disagree with that. CeeDee Lamb, though, are you willing to start him now, knowing Cooper Rush will be the quarterback?
Man, I feel like they're gonna have to throw the ball, especially if they get behind, and they're gonna throw it to their best receiver, Dennis Houston. So I don't know. No, I think it isn't like they're going to turtle up, and while they're going to maybe try to run the ball more and control things with the defense, they're still going to have to throw the ball. And CD had 11 targets last week. He just didn't convert them. Some of the throws weren't great. He was still getting targeted after Dak went out. So I think you do start him. I think you lower expectations. And hopefully he makes at least one big play that, gives his production a boost. But I think, he's probably in wide receiver 2, maybe even wide receiver 3 range, but if he finishes as wide receiver 26 or 27, that's still productive.
Yeah, I mean, with Lamb, I don't think you're dropping him out, but I have him in wide receiver 3 range. He did get 11 targets. He only managed to catch 2. And we saw last week Cincinnati against a quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, who might be a little bit better than Cooper Rush, was able to contain Deontay Johnson and contain Chase Claypool and contain George Pickens. Dallas doesn't have that many options. I like Dalton Schultz a lot better in this game than my confidence in Lamb.
I agree. Dalton Schultz, I feel really comfortable starting. The problem with Lamb is you probably don't have anybody better because of where you drafted him. So you're kind of starting him, but I think you have to, as we talked about, a little bit on Wednesday when Matt and myself talked about our top rankings, like you've got to lower expectations on him, unfortunately. I am taking the Bengals to win the game.
Same.
It's a clean sweep again.
The 0-1 Arizona Cardinals going up against the 0-1 Las Vegas Raiders. Dennis, what do we expect from the Cardinals? From the Raiders backfield?
I think it's, you're going to get a dose of Brandon Bolden as the receiving back. Josh Jacobs is the early down grinder. I don't have a ton of hope for the Raiders or for Jacobs as far as being able to put up big numbers. I think that offense is going to make him grind. How frustrated we got with Damien Harris, 18 carries for 90 yards, and that was it. This is what I think Josh Jacobs' future looks like for playing under Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, I mean, there was some success, obviously, for the Chiefs running against the Cardinals last week. The Raiders are at home. I think you're still starting Jacobs. I've just dropped him down a little bit in my order. What was interesting is there was a lot of talk that Amir Abdullah was going to be kind of their passing back there, James White. It seems like that really did shift to Brandon Bolden, which could give him some interesting deep league flex appeal.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I was gonna say I had a stretch where I'm like, looks like Amir Abdullah is gonna get that job, but I, in the back of my mind, I just kept going, man. They brought in Brandon Bolden and he was doing it. And then you look, and Bolden's been in the league like 11 or 12 years, career special teamer, and it's like I wanted so hard to buy into Amir Abdullah, but I just couldn't do it because I didn't trust Josh McDaniels.
For the Cardinals side here, Dennis, what do you expect from Marquise Hollywood Brown and the passing attack?
That's, he's really the only game in town. Do we really believe in Greg Dortch? I
actually kind of do. Rondo got ruled out.
I know, and it's like, but Dortch had 9 catches last week? Mm-hmm. Is that going to be sustainable? I don't know that it is, but I'm not a believer in Kyler Murray, and so I do discount Marquise Brown because of that. But I feel like Murray wants to show, hey, there's a reason we were good in college, and there's a reason we'll be good. And at some point, I feel like before DeAndre Hopkins gets back, we're going to have a Marquise Brown, 15 or 18 target kind of game. I don't know if this is the week, but I think the Cardinals kind of want to prove that they're still okay, that Kyler Murray's okay, even though he got that contract extension. He's still working hard. I think Brown gets volume and opportunity, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to be terribly efficient.
Yeah, I still think it's Brown and then probably Ertz are the focal points here. If there was possible for teams to be desperate in week 2, I think both these teams are. Both had some high expectations and aspirations coming into the season. The Cardinals looked horrendous in week 1. They looked horrendous on both phases. And if fall off a cliff, Kingsbury starts 0-2, I think that's a grim sign.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I think the Raiders are more desperate because of their division. You fall behind 0-2, that is going to be rough to try and climb out of. At least Arizona right now, the NFC West looks manageable. I think Brown will be fine in the long run. I'm going to take the Raiders. I think they bounce back and get the win here.
I have the Raiders as well.
So do I. It's scaring me that we're all in lockstep this week.
Sticking in the AFC West here, the Houston Texans at 0-1 are traveling to Denver to play the 0-1 Broncos. Matt, Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton?
Both of them got about the same targets. Both of them caught 4 passes. I thought they both looked good. I'm still going with Sutton. I actually have them back-to-back in my receiver rankings, but I think it's Sutton's time.
Yeah, I think there's not going to be a ton of separation in them. It's going to come down to who gets the touchdown each week. Can Russell make both of them valid? He did it in Seattle with Metcalf and Lockett and Baldwin and Lockett. And so I'm not terribly worried that we need to be picking one over the other at this point. But I'm Team Sutton.
As am I. Yeah, I think they'll be fine. We got to give him a couple of weeks. I know he was there all offseason, everything, but it takes a little bit of time to build that chemistry. On the Houston Texans side, Matt, is he going to do it again? OJ Howard going to do it again? Is he fantasy relevant?
8 receptions, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what the Broncos secondary gave up to 3 tight ends in the Seattle Seahawks in that opener. And that was before Justin Simmons went on IR and was lost for 4 games. I am very worried about OJ Howard.
I think Brevin Jordan is the guy. Howard played 12 snaps, 10 snaps. He
maximized him though.
He did. And
Lovie Smith is out on Brevin Jordan. We all like Brevin Jordan, but in the offseason, it was like, no, we got Pharaoh Brown. And when they decided that wasn't going to work out, they went and scoured the waiver wire and pulled somebody up. I feel like they're at this point in time saying that they would rather have anyone at tight end be a focal point in that offense than Brevin Jordan.
I think it's because he's old school. Brevin Jordan is not your old school tight end build. I think that's 100% what it is. That's why he goes and gets the big lumbering O.J. Howard.
Whoever plays tight end, I'm concerned.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt he has a good week this week. I'm not picking him up, though. I don't think that continues. Could be wrong. I'm taking the Broncos to win the game.
Me as well.
If the Broncos don't win the game, Dennis, I hope you enjoy a solo show on Monday.
The Sunday night game, the 1-0 Chicago Bears head to Green Bay to face the 0-1 Green Bay Packers. Dennis, how do we feel about David Montgomery and Darnell Mooney going up against this Packers defense?
I think Montgomery has been plagued with inefficiency his entire career. And while he's been, quote unquote, productive, and I've liked him, I think Khalil Herbert is, starting to nip at his heels. Montgomery isn't going to be back with the Bears next year. And I think that Eberflus is going to start to, as the season goes on, kind of start to look at Khalil Herbert and Tristan Ebner. I think until you start Montgomery as a low-end RB2 flex guy until he doesn't get the volume. Once he stops getting volume, then you move on. But I mean, it's going to be, I'm still waiting to see what really is the Bears offense outside of a torrential downpour, when they're not playing in a swamp. So I'm interested to see what it looks like this week. Be nice if they had a cupcake so we could get a feel for it, but they don't on defense. They've got a pretty good in divisional matchup. And so I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on Montgomery being productive.
Yeah, I don't want to dump on the Bears, but their line didn't look good. Their offense, Justin Fields made the most of the opportunities he had, but Green Bay has a decent defense. They spend a lot of time investing in defense. They're back home. They're another team that's liable to be pissed off. I don't think either Montgomery or Mooney finished top 24 this week.
Matt, Allen Lazard is expected to be back. Are you playing him?
I sure as heck am. I don't think there was any receiver that Aaron Rodgers saw last week that would have put him off throwing the ball to Allen Lazard 95 times when he gets on the field.
If he can get open, I think he's in for Devontae Adams type game. I'm taking Aaron Rodgers as the Chicago Bears daddy, as he puts it. I think he bounces back with the win here.
Yeah, Packers for me as well.
Same.
And then the Monday night game, one I'm really not excited about. I think
2 Monday night games this week.
Oh, that's right. There are 2 Monday night games. I forgot about that.
And they're the 2 best games of the weekend left.
I think this first one's horrible. I think Buffalo will be up 30 to something by halftime. The game will be over with. But the 0-1 Tennessee Titans head to Buffalo to play the 1-0 Bills. Matt, which Titans receiver are you trusting the most?
Kyle Phillips. And even then, that's more in flex territory for me. But I don't know what they're doing. It was very befuddling, the Robert Woods situation.
It seemed like they finished up camp and it was leaning towards Woods, and then Westbrook-Akini was going to be moving into the slot. And then Kyle Phillips took over, and Treylon Burks had 4 targets, and they're still a Derrick Henry team, and they're going to try to run it. And until we see sort of how it shakes out with this new receiving core, I'm nervous about starting any of them.
If I need a big play, I'm going Treylon Burks, but he's a desperate play in the flex. I think he looked good. I know only 4 targets, but I think he's the best wide receiver on that team. Dennis, do you think we're in for another big game from Devin Singletary?
Jeffrey Simmons is pretty good in the middle there, but Devin Singletary's success doesn't necessarily come in the middle. I think Singletary's a better back than he's been given credit for over the last couple of years. But I also don't think he's a world beater by any stretch. I like Singletary. I think he's going to get opportunities. It's concerning that, Zach Moss got 6 targets and Singletary got just 3 or something like that, if I remember. I like Singletary, but I almost feel like Zach Moss is kind of stealth taking the position and going to get some more opportunities because he brings something different to the running game that Cook and Singletary don't. I'm okay flexing Singletary, but that's probably the extent of it.
Saquon Barkley destroyed the Tennessee defense last week. The Buffalo Bills have Tennessee Titans starting guards from last year on their offensive line, kind of an under-the-radar story. And Devin Singletary not only looked good in week 1, he was the lone Buffalo Bills running back not to shit the bed and put the ball on the ground. I think that he's an RB2 this week.
I'll give you one better. I think he finishes as an RB1. I really think they're going to rout Tennessee. Singletary looked good in the playoffs, looked good all preseason. You said it. We've been the entire fantasy community owes Devin Singletary an apology because we've been trying to write that dude off for the past 2 years. I think he's in for a great year. I'm not worried about couldn't find his way onto the field for the past 3 years, Zach Moss. Or James Cook, who was supposed to be like the next Barry Sanders. I don't think either one of them are going to do anything here.
He's remarkably consistent. 1 carry, 1 fumble. I mean,
nobody
he's on base for
circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. I'm taking the Bills.
Me too.
Unless you're talking about them circling the wagon train and lighting it on fire, I don't think they have to circle the wagons to destroy the Titans.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really wish that these games were swapped because I really think that game's going to be bad.
Did you know both games are going to be on at the same time?
I did not know that.
They're only like an hour and 15 minutes.
I didn't even realize there were 2 games. I was kind of confused as to why that didn't happen in week 1. Now I know. The 1-0 Minnesota Vikings are at the 1-0 Philadelphia Eagles. Dennis, aside from Justin Jefferson, is there a Vikings pass catcher you're confident in starting against this Eagles secondary?
Jefferson's going to draw a lot of attention, and Adam Thielen is still good. I think as long as you're not expecting, 10 catches for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns out of Thielen, he's probably a wide receiver 3, and they're useful. So I could see Thielen with a 5 for 79, maybe a touchdown, that type of production.
It was very curious. We didn't get a lot from Thielen or KJ Osborne, guys that we thought were going to have bigger roles. Philly invested a lot of money in that defense, and they have a fairly decent secondary. I don't know that I'm bullish on starting any receiver that's not Justin Jefferson out of Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson is just absolutely incredible. I think I'm going to start Osborne, though. I mean, he only had 3 targets last week, but Justin Jefferson only had he had 11, my bad. I thought he had less than that. My goodness. But Adam Thielen only had 4 as well. I think they are going to try and cover up JJ and Thielen, which leaves Osborne, I think, open a little bit more in the slot. I think Osborne could have a good game because I think this Philadelphia Eagles team is very good. I really think this is going to be a good game. What are we doing with Devonta Smith, though, Dennis? I mean, blanked last week because of A.J. Brown's dominance. Are you leaving him out of your lineup again this week?
So, no, he's on my bench, but I had a couple other pretty good options, and it makes I want to believe, but I mean, you've got Jalen Hurts running the ball 17 times, Miles Sanders running it 14 times, and while 9 of those 17 Hurts rushes were actually dropbacks that he scrambled on, he's still pulling the ball down and running and not waiting for Devonta Smith to get open. I don't know. I think Smith is going to be good, but it makes me nervous that A.J. Brown has just stomped on the usefulness of Devonta Smith like he's Bigfoot or something. But I guess, that's what we saw. I think there was a lot of the mindset, well, A.J. Brown's always been efficient with low volume. I know I fell into that camp, but then he got pretty good volume with Jalen Hurts. And that Detroit game, maybe part of it was a good game, and they did have to score a lot of points, but Devonta Smith makes me nervous that he may be very inconsistent.
Devonta Smith, I like the idea, but he was only wide receiver 30 last year when he was kind of the only show in town. He's on my bench where he belongs right now until you see otherwise. I think there's A.J. Brown there. I like Goddard. They're getting the running game involved, and Jalen Hurts runs a lot.
Yeah, I think he's got to be on your bench. As much as I love him as a player, I mean, Matt mentioned he was wide receiver 30 for fantasy, almost broke 1,000 yards, though, as a rookie. I thought with Jalen Hurts at quarterback and with A.J. Brown coming over, I thought he was going to have a better season, but it's not looking great right now. I don't know where you can get the confidence to start him. I'm taking the Eagles to win this game.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles.
I'm going Minnesota.
All right, so that will do it for us today. Everybody enjoy your weekends. Good luck Sunday and Monday. I hope you're able to pull off your wins, and we will talk to you guys again. Dennis and Matt will talk to you guys again on Monday.
Don't forget to rate and review.